Okay, so this was the reference briefing paper, Financial Crisis Timeline by Timothy Evers, House of Commons briefing paper from the 12th of April 2020. That's the URL there. I'm going to talk about the bugbears of being permanent or inside IR35 in post-COVID. So if you went permanent like me, or if you suddenly found yourself inside IR35 and unable to use that limited company anymore, not worth holding on to, the bugbears is that you can no longer claim travel expense, you can't claim car parking or Oyster cards, so it's coming out your pocket, or PAYE. So for me, I have been working remotely, but I like to go to technical conferences. So technical conferences like Java 1, Nevox, suddenly have gone because who's going to pay for overseas and expensive travel and the hotel? I used to be able to claim that through a limited company, my own limited company. But then, now, and being a black British, I didn't have to beg a manager or my manager's manager, can I have budget so that I can travel to this conference? So sadly that's gone. And also, if I wanted an expensive MacBook Pro, I could claim that through the company and at least pay 2/3 of the price of a MacBook Pro of 2020 or 2023 or whatever it could be. That is gone. And if you wanted certification or AWS training or GCP or Azure, or maybe you wanted to refresher in Kotlin or Scala, you have to pay. Of course, there are lots of Udemy courses out there, but if you wanted to pay the guy instead of steal his course or his or her courses or pay Pluralsight, you could also put that and expense that. You cannot do that being permanent or inside IR35. You have to beg, please, or maybe the company provides has a company pass for these clever resources. I know Cognizant has Udemy, for example. Some companies will have Pluralsight passes, but other than that, you're on your own, really. You fund your own education. And if you are contracting and UK workers only, contractors, well, being taxed inside IR35 is just like PAYE without the benefits of pension. If you have to use a gym and all these nice little benefits that you get, you might pay for your pension, but you definitely lost out on the corporate tax dividend bracket. You definitely won't be made a partner unless the company is yours in the first place, which is definitely not. And the biggest bugbear is if contractors do it for the cash, for the moolah, the money, the income. You will struggle if you earn over £100,000, and this is because your personal allowance rapidly disappears. So let me explain why. Let me go to the next slide, please. Okay, little note about investment banks, right? Notice that the bankers' bonuses actually slipped through the cracks, didn't they? So in the mini budget, that went through, and hopefully they were non-tranche. Investment bankers will know, and if you work in banking industry, you know what that means, tranche and non-tranche. So the stand is in November 2022. Right, is that personal allowance reduces when you earn over £100,000, 100k. Personal allowance, which everyone is entitled to, for if they're less than 125k, is reduced by £1 for every £2 of income over £100,000. And the personal allowance is, according to 2022, is £12,571. So if you earn like the lowest grade NHS nurse or even primary school teacher at a very junior level, less then, or equal to £12,571, then you pay no tax. The rest of your salary, if you earn £25,000 a year, is taxed at 20% basic tax. When you are a new graduate from university and you earn 50,000, you will still 28. As soon as you go over £50,271, then you are in the 40% tax bracket, which is why a lot of the salaries and inside IR35 contract rates or hourly rates or daily rates, much of them appear in here because of this red area here. So when your income is over £125,000, then your personal allowance reduces to zero, and therefore your tax is 40% plus that £1 for every £2 that you are losing. Effectively, between 100,000 and 125,000, your tax is 61.5%, which is crazy. So you don't really want a salary of 150,000 or 120,000 pounds. There's a way around it where you ask specifically your employer or the fee payer, if you're inside IR35, to pay you only 100k, and the remainder you stuff into a pension. It has to be a pension, not a ISA, to get the tax benefits. And you may as well do that. This is fantasy now. I'm going to switch to fantasy. And it wouldn't surprise me if this happens. Ideally, in the budget of April 2023, just in case somebody is watching this in July 2023, this did not happen. This is my view, right? My view. The personal allowance should be reduced by £1 for every £4 of income above 125,000. And then when the income is 175,000 or more, then your personal allowance reduces to zero. I think I've got those calculations wrong. I mean, I probably thinking late last night when I thought of these slides. Effectively, what we are reducing is the gradient or the unfairness. The effective tax rate for income between 125,000 and 175,000 is approximately 50%, which is a fairer tax slice. If you earn 150,000, if some stupid company is going to pay you that, then I guess you should have 50%. And finally, the government could consider bringing back, and this could happen, when I'm nowhere near 150, and there are some Googlers, and if they're still there, Meta Facebookers, if they're not among the 11,000 who got laid off today, who could be getting a 50% tax. I mean, remember, this is my fantasy. I mean, basically, the personal allowance should move up, and I guess that would be further. And it's basically that sliding gradient. Where do you start to remove the personal allowance? The other thing then is to keep the personal allowance then. And the personal allowance is basically a way to grab more tax from the higher income, and it's definitely unfair to the middle income earners, I think. And I think a more subtle gradient, £1 for every £4, is better than £1 for every £2. Fantasy. Remember, it was me. It's not fact. And it's certainly not fake news. Okay. In 2020, I thought this IR35 of Payroll worker will just killed off contracting. If not COVID, the coronavirus did. And then in 2022, when I saw that quasi-Kraton Liz Truss mini budget, I kind of jumped for joy with some caution because I thought there may be a rebirth. And the reason I thought this is because we need innovation. We always complain in Britain, in the UK, oh, the innovation is going to Germany, or it's going to France, it's going to another place. But innovation drives business, especially the small-time guys and girls. It's they who come up with, like, Kent Beck, test-driven development. I just plucked him out of my head because I'm doing interviews, conducting interviews, and it's the small guys that are being attacked here. It's the middle earners, and that is the reason why people jumped into contracting. And people like me did it because it was a way to get to the top, certainly contracting, without begging for tech passes or for conferences or going up for promotion or jumping the levies, going from level 7 up to a level 2. We didn't have to do that, so we'd rather have the money. But I'm afraid that thrill is definitely gone, and those days are definitely over for now. Sorry. The way the world kind of looks with these kind of layoffs from Meta, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter itself, all the vectors, unfortunately, are downwards, and I think 2023 is going to be difficult, and that means more businesses, especially smaller business, will fold. And so how are they going to pay you outside IR35 150k? It doesn't make any sense. There's no business. For contracting, I think it's going to be hard. For consultancy, especially if you have a great network on LinkedIn, if you establish yourself in pre-COVID, or you've just built it up during COVID, and maybe you came from redundancy and you took all your clients with you. For consultancy, finding talent is definitely tough. Finding the right talent is going to be the hardest thing, and people, it's a game of musical chairs. I think people are scared over the winter of 2022 to 2023. Might be different. Remember, I'm recording this in November 2022. Looking ahead over Christmas, people, there aren't many empty chairs to jump into, so people will stay and rather than twist. And I think that's where we are looking at. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news. The only way is up. Yes.